All right, my gorgeous noobs, buckle up, because today we're diving into a commander so underestimated, so slept on, that even Hungary was like, maybe don't tell anyone he's this strong. John frickin' Hunyadi. This man walked straight out of medieval Europe, grabbed an engineering blueprint, slapped on a siege helmet, and said, "I'm done defending castles. Now I'm deleting marches." You think you know Hunyadi? Nope. You've only seen the history book version. I'm about to show you the Siege Slayer edition, the one Lilith tried to hide in the patch notes. Today, we're breaking down why John Hunyadi isn't just another support commander. He is Rage Cycle Demon, debuff machine, and one of the nastiest trade flippers in the entire engineering tree. So, grab your trebuchets, grab your healing potions, and for the love of siege mains everywhere, do not blink. You're about to meet the Hungarian hero who's been secretly carrying your marches without telling you. Before we jump into Hunyadi's skills, we need to talk about something important: investment logic. Look, John Hunyadi is a fantastic commander. He trades well, he fits into a ton of pairings, and he brings real value to a 3-march engineering lineup. But if you're just now starting your engineering journey from scratch, he might actually be one to skip. Why? Because Hunyadi has a very high chance of being power-crept with the next wave of commander releases. Lilith's been dropping new engineering heroes like Halloween candy, and history tells us someone newer, shinier, and more broken is probably right around the corner. But here's the key. If you already have John at 5511 and you don't have Afonso or Babur in a similar state, then Hunyadi absolutely still belongs in your 3-march setup. He'll last you longer than people expect, especially when paired properly, and he fills gaps most players don't realize they have. And finally, don't forget, at this point in the game, you should only be working on John through Mightiest Governor. Do not use sculptures, unless you're a few heads away from expertise and about to enter a big fight. MGE is the only scenario that makes investing in him efficient. All right, now that we've cleared that up, let's finally dig into what this man actually does on the battlefield. All right, let's kick things off with Raven's Wings, John Hunyadi's active skill. And this thing is way better than people give it credit for. First, it's a 1000 rage skill, so standard rage cycle, but the damage numbers here are where it gets spicy. Hunyadi deals 900 ranged damage factor from a distance, but if the enemy gets too close, if they wander into melee range because they think you're free, boom, 1600 damage factor straight to the face. That's basically double damage just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. If cavalry players weren't already crying, they will be after this. But here's the part that makes this skill actually matter in engineering marches. After the active skill fires, for the next 3 seconds, your march gains 20% more ranged skill damage. That's huge. This means every bit of follow-up skill damage from your secondary commander, your equipment procs, your talent tree, or other effects, all of it hits harder for those 3 seconds. So, Raven's Wings isn't just a nuke, it's a damage amplifier that sets up your entire rage cycle to snowball. In practice, this means John pairs beautifully with heavy skill damage commanders. Afonso, Stephen, Babur, anyone with large multipliers or follow-up ticks benefits massively from that 20% window. Bottom line, Hunyadi's active skill turns every cycle into a mini burst phase, and if you're running engineering correctly, you're abusing that 3-second buff every chance you get. Now, if you thought that 3-second skill damage window was crazy, wait until you see how fast this man fires it off again. Because Hunyadi isn't just nuking you, he's reloading the cannon before you even say hospital bill. Next up, we've got Sword in the Sky, and this is where Hunyadi secretly becomes one of the smoothest and most consistent engineering commanders in the entire game. First, you're getting a straight 30% siege attack bonus. No conditions, no hoops, no weird requirements, just pure stats all the time. Siege units hit like wet noodles without buffs, so any raw attack like this goes farther than on other types of troop. But the real juice, the line nobody pays attention to, while in ranged mode, it gains rage 15% faster. This is massive. Hunyadi is an engineering commander. You're in ranged mode basically 24/7, so this is always active. And 15% rage gain doesn't sound like much until you realize it speeds up his skill cycle by 1 full turn every few cycles, and sometimes 2 turns in longer trades. That means you throw more actives than the enemy. You trigger your 20% skill damage window more often. Your secondary commander fires off more skill multipliers. Your damage output snowballs harder the longer the brawl lasts. Hunyadi isn't just cycling faster, he's stealing tempo. When you're landing actives every 9 to 10 seconds instead of 11 to 12 seconds, that stacks up fast in large ranged brawls and city-focused trades. This is why Hunyadi, even though he's not the flashiest commander on paper, feels amazing in real fights. Your marches stay dangerous because they never stop firing off skills. Sword in the Sky turns him from pretty good support to a rage engine that feeds your entire pairing. And just when you thought Hunyadi's rage cycle couldn't get any nastier, he pulls out one more trick that turns every active skill into a lottery ticket of free damage and free rage. This is where Hunyadi stops being pretty good and starts becoming a full-blown engineering menace. The skill that turns every active skill into a bonus shot. Now, let's talk about Hunyadi's third, and honestly, this might be the most underrated part of his entire kit. Here's how it works. Every time your march uses an active skill, your active or your secondary commander's active, you get a chance to fire off a bonus ranged damage with a 300 damage factor. Now, on paper, it says this has a 20% chance to trigger, but engineering players, listen closely. If your target is not in melee range, meaning you're doing what an engineering march is supposed to do and staying at range, that chance jumps to a massive 40% proc rate. That means almost every time you cast your active skill, Hunyadi fires off a follow-up shot. And the best part? That bonus hit can trigger during the 20% skill damage window created by his first skill, Raven's Wings. So not only are you getting more damage, you're stacking it inside your buff window. This is why Hunyadi feels so smooth and consistent compared to other engineering commanders. He doesn't rely on gimmicks, he just fires skill after skill after skill while peppering you with free damage in between. Shield of Belgrade turns John Hunyadi into a true tempo commander, constantly stealing momentum in ranged fights and enabling the secondary commander to shine even brighter. And just when you thought Hunyadi's kit is already overloaded with value, his expertise walks in and says, no, we're not done deleting health bars yet. This upgrade turns a good passive into one of the best tempo tools in the entire engineering lineup. Now, let's talk about Knight of the Noon Bell, and this skill is simple, brutal, and extremely effective. This passive makes Hunyadi's troop deal 40% more damage to any target below 50% units remaining. 40%! That is massive, and it's one of the highest conditional damage boosts across all engineering commanders. This turns Hunyadi into an executioner. Once a target drops low, they melt. Your final skill cycles hit harder, your bonus procs from Shield of Belgrade get stronger, and your secondary commander's multipliers are all getting juiced against weakened marches. And remember, because Hunyadi has increased rage gain and bonus rage procs, he's firing skills more often than most commanders. So you're not getting one boosted hit, you're getting multiple boosted hits while the enemy is at their weakest. Knight of the Noon Bell is the perfect final piece of Hunyadi's kit. Clean, deadly, and designed to punish anyone who dares stick around too long. And just when you think Hunyadi's kit is already overloaded with value, his expertise walks in and says, no, we're not done deleting health bars yet. This upgrade turns a good passive into one of the best tempo tools in the entire engineering lineup. All right, now let's finish strong with Hunyadi's expertise, Glory Eternal. and this is straight up a supercharged version of Shield of Belgrade. This upgrade does three major things. 1. Damage proc jumps to 400 factor, up from 300. Every time you use an active skill, you now have a chance to fire an extra ranged hit for 400 damage factor. That's a solid bump in real-world DPS, especially during the 20% boosted window from Raven's Wings. 2. You now generate 30 free rage on proc. This is where the expertise becomes insanely valuable. Not only are you hitting harder, you're gaining rage to help fuel your next skill cycle. Combined with his 15% rage gain from Sword in the Sky, this creates a loop of skill, bonus hit, bonus rage, next skill faster. Repeat. Hunyadi's tempo becomes noticeably smoother once you unlock this. 3. Proc chance doubles. This is the biggest buff of all, and the reason Glory Eternal is such a game changer. Before expertise, 20% chance if target is in melee range, 40% chance if target is at ranged distance. After expertise, 40% chance at melee, 80% at ranged. That's right. When playing Hunyadi the correct way, staying at range, his bonus shot triggers 8 out of 10 times you use an active skill. This is wild for consistency. Your damage output doesn't come in streaky bursts. It becomes predictable, steady, and extremely high value over long trades. Why Glory Eternal matters? This expertise ties Hunyadi's entire kit together. Faster rage equals more actives equals more bonus procs equals more rage gain, more rage equals more windows to activate his 20% skill damage buff, and all of it stacks with your secondary commander's skill multipliers. Glory Eternal elevates Hunyadi from pretty decent support DPS to a legitimate tempo monster in any engineering lineup. When he's expertised, he's not just firing skills, he's firing skills constantly and hitting you with bonus damage almost every single time. All right, now that we've broken down all of Hunyadi's skills, let's talk about how we actually build this guy, because his talent tree setup is a huge part of why he feels so good on the field. John Hunyadi is one of the rare engineering commanders who genuinely benefits from dipping into the support tree. And the reason is simple: rage, rage, and more rage. The support tree gives you some of the strongest rage generation nodes in the entire game. Most importantly, Rejuvenate for extra rage every time you fire an active skill, Rage Cycle Consistency that pairs perfectly with his 15% rage gain, more uptime for his 20% ranged skill damage buff, and more chances to trigger his Shield of Belgrade or Glory Eternal bonus damage. When you combine his built-in passive rage speed with support tree talents, John becomes one of the smoothest cycling engineering commanders available. His entire kit is designed to cast skills often, so naturally we want to build into the tree that gives us even more of that. Now, I'm not going super deep into every tiny talent node here because that would turn this video into a 45-minute engineering seminar, but I do have a full breakdown of the exact support plus engineering setup I recommend. So at the end of this video, you'll see a clickable card that takes you to my in-depth talent tree guide. If you want the exact pathing, the rage math behind it, and my reasoning for each node, make sure to check that out. For now, just know this: support tree plus Hunyadi's rage kit equals non-stop skill pressure. It's the backbone of why this commander feels so good in 3 March engineering setups. You want the pairing that feels the smoothest, hits the hardest, and sustains the best over long-ranged fights. Stephen plus John is the ideal combo. These two complement each other almost perfectly. John brings the rage engine, bonus procs, and finishing power. Stephen brings heavy skill damage, AoE pressure, and built-in sustain. Together, they create a march that is balanced, punishing, and incredibly reliable in a 3 March engineering setup. You can actually run either one as primary. Stephen primary if you want to maximize his AoE and get those support tree boosts, John primary if you prefer the cleaner skill damage window on Raven's wings. There's no wrong choice here, it really comes down to your playstyle. Next, the strong option is Afonso plus John, which brings big burst potential and excellent synergy with John's 20% skill damage window. Just like with Stephen, both commanders work as primary depending on what you want. Afonso primary if you want his AoE to fire off first and hit hard. John primary if you want to amplify your opening skill cycles and trigger his expertise procs more consistently. This pairing is all about front-loaded pressure. If you like deleting health bars early and forcing marches into panic mode, this duo feels fantastic. Between these two pairings, you really can't go wrong. They're flexible, strong at range, and they take full advantage of Hunyadi's fast skill cycle and execution damage. And that wraps up our full breakdown of John Hunyadi, the Siege Slayer Hungary didn't warn you about. Whether you run him with Stephen, Afonso, or in a full engineering lineup, this guy brings way more value than people expect. Before I go, I want to say something a little more personal. I genuinely appreciate every single one of you who's joined the Gumbo community. We might still be a small channel, but man, it has been so much fun making these videos, talking Siege, laughing at memes, and meeting so many awesome people along the way. Every comment, every like, every message, it all means more than you know. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now, if you enjoyed the video and want to support the channel, do me a favor. Drop a like, subscribe, and comment below which commander you want to see next. It helps the video reach more Siege mains who secretly want to join the dark side, and it tells me what content you want more of. And don't forget, at the end of the video, there's a card you can click to see my full support plus engineering talent tree guide if you want the deeper breakdown. All right, my gorgeous noobs, that's all for today. Stay safe, stay siege-brained, and as always, pleb out.
Gumbo in the pot, thick steam in the air. Season it heavy, got the spices to scare. My siege drops fire, watch the towers crumble. Archers take flight, but they fumble in the jungle. Blades clash loud, infantry in the grind. Cavalry charge, but they fall to behind. It's the flavor of war, every bite is a lesson. Pew-Tang clan's the ultimate weapon. Pew-Tang clan ain't nothing to mess with. Pew-Tang clan.